Hi, I'm Bob from Bob's Bees. I thought, seeing as it's winter and there's not much going off at the moment with the bees to show you, I would instead do a little narration of when I first got my bees. And this is the very first set of bees that I've got. You can see there's a nook there, that green box that says live bees on it. The nook is a starter set of bees, so inside that box there are 5 frames of bees, and I intend to transfer them into the hive that I've got ready there on the bench. In the background, there's my mother and a friend who's recording. They were both very brave. Neither of them had a bee suit on, but neither of them got stung during this. The bees were very gentle. Even though they were flying and landing on them, the bees were pretty much just chilling out. The only reason I have a suit on there is despite a lot of videos you see on the internet where people are handling bees with no protection at all, much better safe than sorry. And as I was sticking my hands right in there, I thought I deserved to wear some protection. So, not being selfish, you'll see some bare hands in the shots at some point. So, what I'm doing here is I've got everything set up ready. I've moved the nook onto the bench just so that there's less space to move the frames from their temporary travelling box into their permanent home. And I've already got the smoke there going as well. The smoke, if you don't know, basically masks any kind of pheromones that bees might try to transmit to each other. So if one of them starts panicking and releases pheromones that tell the other bees they're under attack, it just helps to prevent them getting a little bit cranky. So I smoked around the box just so that the small air holes could let a bit of smoke in, and hopefully calm them down a little bit. As you can see, they're quite eager to get out. On the audio to this original video, I commented that one of the things I noticed as soon as I took the lid off was the heat that came out of the box. And how warm it is inside a hive is very, very surprising. So, as this was my first set of bees, I am taking great care to be very slow, not startle the bees or surprise them in any way that might provoke them to get defensive. And also, those frames are very sticky, they're very tightly packed in there, and when the bees are being raised, they actually live in that nucleus with an opening, so they have airflow, they can get in and out, they're not trapped. But it does just give them time to build upon the frames and establish themselves in there, which also gives them plenty of time to produce something called propolis, which they use for sealing gaps, sealing anything that might get into the hive that's too big to remove. It creates a hermetic seal so that it's effectively a germ barrier. Say, for example, a mouse got in there over winter and it was too big for them to drag out, they would seal it over so the infection didn't go into the hive. They really are very, very fascinating little creatures. So I'm taking great care here to remove the frames, A, because I don't want to squash the bees, and B, because it's very sticky and hard to get out. As this was my very first time handling bees, I made the mistake of not taking my hive tool with me. But lessons learned. So you can see there on the first frame that's already in the hive, it's basically just a frame of open honey. And on this frame here, you can see that there is honey in the top left corner that's sealed Y, and the yellow in the middle is baby bees that have been sealed over, their eggs been laid, and they're waiting to hatch. I'll do another video later on that just says a little bit more about the life cycle and what happens inside a beehive, the standard practices. You really could talk forever, and if you ever talk to a beekeeper in person and ask them about bees, they will just go on and on. Or maybe that's just me. But you can see there, it's a very healthy little starter kit. I got them off a great guy in Matlock. Again, on that frame, you can see that there are 2 white corners of capped honey. In the middle, there's a sort of flat yellow covering. Those are female bees. And towards the bottom right there, you can see that there are again paler yellow cells that are slightly more raised, and those are male bees or drones that have been hatched. And bees are very good in how they lay inside of the hive. They tend to have the very center as a ball across frames. That's where they lay their brood, so that's where they lay, or rather that's where the queen lays eggs, and then they work their way outwards, and they tend to put honey on the outside frames, and they keep their sort of living and hatcheries in the middle of the frames. There's a bee there, obviously, just flying off of my cameraman. They were very friendly. If you didn't see it because you were too distracted by me talking, she was basically just taking five, having a little chill, grooming herself a little bit. And here we get a bit more of a close up on the frame. So you can see here there's no capped brood, so this isn't a frame that would be used to rear newbies, but you can see, haha, newbies. You can see there it's mostly open, and you may see some of the cells are slightly discolored. That's actually because the bees have been storing pollen in there. Bees don't just store honey for food sources in the hive. They also store pollen, which is their protein source, and honey is their energy source. And that bottom box there, as beekeepers, we don't take anything out of that. We only take honey from the top boxes when they get added, called supers, short for superfluous, and that is extra honey that the bees overproduce, so that's what we take. So we don't take the food stores from the brood chamber or the brood box, which is the larger, deeper box you can see there. And here goes in the final frame. Again, you can see there are no sealed cells, but you can see that the honey is glistening slightly in the little pockets. So let's have a good look here. So you can see honey, nice and shiny. The bees, as you notice, the majority of them are staying on the frames. They're really not bothered about us. A few bees are flying around. Some of them are just curious that the box has been opened up. There'll be a lot of bees that are slightly disoriented. But they will find their way back into the hive. Right at the end, you'll see that I leave the green box, which has some bees left in it, near the hive, and what they will do is realize that the queen is no longer with them, and they will effectively smell the pheromones that the other bees are putting out, and they'll use that as a tracking to alert other bees, if they've got lost, that they are now there. And you see this a lot when you inspect the hives or you put new frames in. Occasionally you have to take old frames out. It's considered good practice to change the frames every few years just to stop a buildup of bacteria, fungal infections, viruses, pests. There's a lot that can go wrong in a beehive, and that's our job as beekeepers, to keep an eye on them. But you do see, when you sort of open up a hive in any way, shape or form, a lot of bees stand around the edges or stand out the front to the entrance of the hive, and they stick their bums in the air and they fan their wings, and what they're doing is they are distributing a pheromone so that their colony can find them. And this is what happens in the wild. So when a hive splits and you see swarming, you'll see a great load of bees in the air. Unfortunately, I have had that happen before. My neighbour was kind enough to send me a video once. I was very disappointed that I didn't get to see it, but I was also very disappointed that my bees had absconded. So what I've done here so far is I have transferred all of these bees from a 5-frame box into a 10-frame box. That's why there are empty frames in there, and this was at the start of summer a couple of years ago. So it's warm enough, the extra open space isn't going to cause the bees to chill, but they will build out the frames with comb, ready to store food. So the first year is very much about getting the bees established, and we help them do that by feeding them sugar syrup, which is just sugar and water. There's plenty of flowers around, so they can forage their own nectar, they can forage pollen. So I literally just gave them, in this instance, a little bit of sugar syrup. They got through about a pint a week for the first few weeks, and then they sort of seemed happy that they'd settled in and they found their way around the local neighborhood. So all of these bees that are in the air, they will find their way back into the hive because the queen is in there. I was very lucky that I managed to see her, but as a beginner beekeeper, we do make mistakes, and I can see there that I was perhaps taking a little bit longer than I should have done. If you want to add critiques, please feel free. Like I said, this was a couple of years ago, and since then I have moved my hives to a friend's farm. I've gotten more experience. I've constantly been watching videos on YouTube, seeing how other beekeepers do it, looking at tips, reading books. Personally, I don't think that you do need to go on a course for beekeeping. Reading is a great source of information, as in watching videos, and I did a lot of that before I got bees, so I didn't just jump into this as a impulse decision. Keeping bees isn't very cheap. The initial capital to get hives, buy the bees, buy the tools, it's not the cheapest thing, but it is a very rewarding hobby, and this is something that I do as a hobby. They're very nice to watch. After they'd settle, quite often I would sit out in the garden with them, maybe just a couple of meters away from the hive. I'd have a coffee, maybe have a sandwich or eat some fruit, and it was very therapeutic just to see the bees coming and going. Occasionally the bees did come and land on my fruit, and they'd have a little sip of the juice. Cheeky little bees, stealing their daddy's food, but of course I'm happy to share with them. What's happening here? The cameraman got a bee in his ear, so slightly different take from having bees in your bonnet, but that's where the video ended for that reason. So I just wanted to give you a little look at the first time I got bees, what happened there, transferring them into a box. It's a very straightforward and simple process, but it was also a big learning curve for me, as that was literally the first time that I had handled bees, and maybe it would have been good to find a beekeeper in the area and maybe shadow them for a while to get some more hands-on experience. But unfortunately, where I live, which is in Nottinghamshire, it's right near Sherwood Forest. I actually live on the edge of the forest, so there aren't that many beekeepers around here, or at least not that are registered on the core beekeeping website. So that's why I turned to books and YouTube to figure out what I wanted to do and how to take care of bees. And it really has been a self-learning curve since then. My friend's farm, she's very kindly offered to host my hives for me. So there are now 3 beehives there. We have great fun together, going through, looking at the bees, seeing what they're up to, and when it comes to spring, I will definitely do a video of the first inspection, since they were closed down for winter, and we'll look at how they're doing. Hopefully they're doing fantastically. On the milder days, I have seen the bees coming out and about. I've occasionally put my ear to the hive. I can hear them buzzing, so I know they're still in there, but I don't quite know what state they're in. And we don't open the hives in winter unless it's absolutely crucial, because we really do want to keep all the heat in there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed having a look at getting a nook initially. Hopefully this year I also want to buy a package of bees, which is basically a big box with netting on each side that's just full of bees, no comb, no frames, and you literally tip the bees upside down. So that will be an experience, and if they come by Royal Mail, that will also be something that could be quite fun to get a video of, especially if I had them delivered to work. That would be quite interesting. I wonder what they think about having a few thousand bees in the office, safely contained in a package. Probably not going to do that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know if you want to see anything particular in a beehive, if you want to see eggs, if you want to see the queen, if you want to see how we extract honey, if you want to see what we do with honey, if you want to see what we do with beeswax, how we purify that and render it, and the things that I use it for, let me know and I will make some videos for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. This is the first time that I've done a video edit to go on YouTube, so I'm hoping that you enjoyed it, but leave me comments, leave me some criticism, be gentle, be kind, and if you could like and subscribe as standard, it really does help. So I will see you guys soon.